Andrew Jackson and the removal of Indians. On March 4, 1829, Andrew Jackson became our country's 7th president. He had numerous accomplishments during his time, good and bad, but the most criticized and controversial was the passing of the Indian Removal Act. It was 1830, the second year of Jackson's presidency. In his annual message was included a message to Congress about the removal of Indians. These actions would lead to the removal of thousands of Indians and the Trail of Tears. It gives me pleasure to announce to Congress that the benevolent policy of government steady pursued for nearly 30 years in relation to the removal of Indians beyond the white settlements is approaching to a happy consummation. 2 important tribes have accepted the provision made for their removal at the last session of Congress, and it is believed that their example will induce the remaining tribes to also seek the same obvious advantages. This is what Jackson said at the opening of his message to Congress. It is clear by his language that he thought the acts were beneficial to both the American people and the Indians. This, though, turned out to be partially untrue. Though it was bad for the Indians, it was indeed beneficial to our country. In his message to Congress, Jackson pointed out the advantages of his act for both sides. He said, quote, "By opening the whole territory between Tennessee on the north and Louisiana on the south to the settlement of whites, it will incalculably strengthen the southwestern frontier and render the adjacent states strong enough to repel future invasions without remote aid. It will relieve the whole state of Mississippi and the western part of Alabama for Indian occupancy, and enable those states to advance rapidly in population, wealth, and power." This is how Jackson thought it would benefit the U.S., and he was right. He also said how it would benefit the Indians. Quote, "It will separate the Indians from immediate contact with settlements of whites, free them from the power of the states, enable them to pursue happiness in their own way and under their own rude institutions. The acts brought anything but happiness to the Indians, and many died on the trail." The Senate voted on April 24th of 1830. The Indian Removal Act passed with a vote of 28 to 19. On May 26th, the House voted. It passed with a vote of 101 to 97. Support for the act came from the South, where they would be getting more land if it was passed. By May 28th, 1830, the act was passed. Its goal was to open up Indian lands for settlement east of the Mississippi River in Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and North Carolina. The Indians were to be relocated to the lands west of the Mississippi in modern-day Arkansas and Oklahoma. The move west was supposed to be voluntary, but many tribes resisted and had to be forcibly marched west. During the fall and winter of 1838 and 1839, the Cherokees were forced to give up their lands east of the Mississippi River and move west more than 2,000 miles to present-day Oklahoma. About 4,000 died on this march. It would be known as the Trail of Tears. Jackson had many other accomplishments during his presidency, but the passing of the Indian Removal Act had to be his most controversial and criticized action.